I'm great. I'm great. So the topic of the day is what you need to do before you get behind the wheel in Denver, Colorado, to avoid a DUI for both alcohol and also for marijuana.
Okay.
So, tips and things that you would advise people to keep in mind before they make that decision to actually drive home versus take a taxi or Uber or whatever.
Okay. Well, okay, let's start with alcohol. Alcohol, a lot of times, there's a social occasion, like you're at a bar, you're at a restaurant, something like that. But when you go there, you're going to have a drink, or you're going to have something to drink. So I think the best time to decide what you're going to do later is while you're still sober. I see time and again, people just, their judgment changes after a couple of drinks. That's why people drink, in fact, so that they can, I don't know, relax, not think about everything that's pressing down. So better that you think about that first and I find if people really are challenged by this, then find another way to get there. That's a good way to never run into the problem. But you may find yourself changing your mind about whether you can drive or not, and deciding, I think I'm okay. And that your judgment isn't any good anymore. So I think you should stick with the decision you made earlier, which is to find another way home and do that. That's for alcohol. And marijuana is challenging because, first of all, you can ingest it through different means. So say it's an edible and you eat it. I think before you put that in your mouth, you better be in a place you're going to stay for a long time, or else have a way home from, or be with people that who are going to be taking care of you, because that's going to last a long time. I think if you've had that experience, you're going to know that it's until I would say you better not plan on anything that day. Now, smoking marijuana or other means of ingestion, they don't last quite as long. Some people who are probably know when they're okay. I think it's slightly different social circumstance. You don't go out to a club and smoke marijuana. Now, people will sometimes bring it with them, smoke it in the car, stuff like that. And when you do that, I think you run some risks. First of all, because carrying the marijuana in the car is going to be an open container. They're not if they can see it, you're going to be in trouble. So storing it's going to be important. Keeping it out of your main compartment, that's going to be important. And then the smell of it in the car, especially if it's smoked, is going to be lingering, and officers are going to be looking specifically for that. So it is in alcohol, you can smell that, but you can really smell burning marijuana. So that's and the only other option would be a vape pen. And if it's something like that, people say you can't smell it, but I think you can smell something. And I think it's a bad idea to do inside your car. So with marijuana, I would suggest that it's similar to alcohol, slightly different, but you should make plans in advance. And if you're going to smoke it, or if you're going to eat it, for sure, be planning any trips anywhere. But if you're out at a club or something and somebody offers it to you, just make sure if you're driving home, you're not going to be able to drive for a few hours. So you can't later on. I think that's the time before you smoke it to think, well, how am I going to handle this afterward? I think you got to use some maturity. These are both alcohol and drugs. We don't let minors drink them because we think people who are grown up will have better judgment and understand. And it's just, and I think that's when you got to exercise that. This is a grown-up thing, so act like a grown-up, as I guess I'd say, before you start.
Got it. And there's outlying circumstances and situations that I'm sure you've run into, like the example of, let's say, for example, someone's a designated driver and they're not a drinker or a smoker, but perhaps one of their passengers is.
Yeah.
And so as the driver of the vehicle, responsible party, what should you do before you get behind the wheel in relation to the marijuana or alcohol that your passengers may or may not have on them?
Well,
How should you handle that situation?
Okay, well, that's not. If you're sober, then it's less serious. I think there's open container laws for alcohol and also for marijuana. You got to keep that in mind.
Right.
They're going
to probably still be in your trunk, right?
Yeah, probably should be. If they see it and it's in a plain view, it's going to slow you down. It's going to lead to a lot of investigation. in those circumstances, they may proceed because they may be smelling all this alcohol and all this marijuana from your friends. They may proceed with a DUI investigation on you. So I'm going to advise people to tell people do in every investigation, which is do not confess to things, do not make admissions that are damaging. You have to do what the officer asks, but you don't have to answer a lot of questions. In that instance, you can tell the truth, which is I've had nothing to drink or smoke and I'm fine. That you can certainly say. I've had people get arrested even under that circumstance. And boy, when that happens, you want to make it clear you want a blood test right from the beginning. Listen, I want a blood test all along. I'm not going to do any roadsides, but I want a blood test. Make it clear that they can't turn that or claim that's a refusal just because they feel stymied. But I've seen it happen. People come to me and they said, I got arrested for DUI. And I said, what'd you have to drink or smoke? And they said, nothing. And I'm like, well, we should be in pretty good shape. And they said, well, I refuse to take a test. I've had that happen a couple times. It's like, well, now I got a whole case on my hands. And I've gone to trial. I've won on that. I've won a couple times, but it's not an enviable position to be in. And if they just taken a test, I got that result. I've had that happen where I go in with a test and throw it down and say, we'll take your apology. And that's a great position to be in.
Good. All good information. And I think you touched on the point that, I think does bear repeating, that if there is any marijuana that needs, transporting in the vehicle, it should go in the trunk, or, in the case of a truck or a hatchback, in the most rear part of the vehicle, correct?
Well, yeah, there's similar open container laws. Only the containers of marijuana are different. People don't usually buy some and then smoke it all like you would drink a whole beer. It's not like that. So we're trying to use these things we had with alcohol, and we're trying to apply them towards marijuana. They don't match very well.
Right.
But as you know, law enforcement's not entirely on board with the idea of legalizing this drug. They're not. As I think I've said before, this is like one of the signs of the apocalypse for some officers. They're not okay with it, and so they're when they see it, they're going to take a strong reaction. So, and I see sometimes young people especially want to flaunt it in their face. And it's like, well, not a good idea. I think that's not a good idea. And I think also as you transport it, the trunk is usually a better idea. Understood.
So any parting wisdom regarding, before you get behind the wheel of a vehicle, in relation to, keeping your freedom and avoiding a DUI?
Well, being very cognizant that your judgment is going to change and not forgetting that. And
right.
That's something we all need to know. And that's what grownups do is say, hey, now I'm feeling like this. In the future, I think I'm going to think I'm okay. And just make your mind up early in the evening. And if you're the kind of person who does change their mind a lot, well, then have someone else drop you off. Take a cab there. Take a Uber there.
Right.
It's cheaper than anyway, and Uber is anyway in the early evening, and that's a good way to go.
Got it. Okay. Well, great. This is all incredibly valuable information. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll be speaking to you soon. Have a great day.